data comes in two forms, really. It comes in discrete data and aggregate data. We're mostly going to work with aggregate data in this class, although for years reporting, I used discrete data. I'm going to show you a great example. You can go get county tax appraisal district information about specific houses, addresses. You can very often find documents published online. City of Austin has an online resource where they publish every single crash, like automobile crash, everyone that happens all day long. They publish it almost real time, like within a few hours. You can go look through that data and get information about a crash. So one of the things I want to show you is an example of what discrete data looks like, which is one-off. Discrete data is a single case. So I want to know the history of this house, or I want to know about this one person who's been arrested and charged with something. Let me get that person's criminal record, see if I can find out more about that. So again, that's discrete. That's single incident data. It's about a certain person or house or vehicle. It's about one incident. Most of the work we're going to do in this class is aggregate data. And one of the things I'm going to show you today is how to look for a data set in Excel on Google. There are some tricks to searching for data on Google, which I'll show you. We're going to interrogate data a little bit today. I'll show you how to sort of analyze it. So as you start to think about putting your data piece together, that's what today is all about, is to hopefully give you some tools to put that data piece together. So I have a little example of discrete data, and it's one of my favorites. I've done this many times actually in reporting, which is I've gone and looked at county tax records, and you can get information about houses in a really interesting way. And this data exists in hundreds of counties all across the US. So here's a quick look, about 2 minutes, at how I use those county tax records to maybe find an interesting story idea.
So again, this is a look at discrete data, and this is pretty generally available all over the country. You can do this in most counties in the country. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go search the Bexar County Appraisal District. This is the taxing authority in San Antonio, Texas, which is just south of San Marcos. And I can click on Bexar County Appraisal District, and then I'm going to select property search. And again, you can do this in thousands of counties around the country. There's a neat neighborhood there called Alamo Heights, and there's a road called Alamo Heights Boulevard. So I'm going to go search Alamo Heights Boulevard, and then we'll see what houses come up. And what I'm looking for is just a couple of things that I can compare one against the other. So what it shows is these are the addresses, the owners. Over here are the prices. You can click on the map, the details. So let me just look and see if I see any patterns. This is kind of interesting. So here's a 600 block, Alamo Heights Boulevard. It's worth $600,000. Here's a house in the 600 block of Alamo Heights Boulevard that's worth $800,000. These two houses, 600,000, 800,000, are just up the road from each other. So what I'm going to do is, in a couple of new tabs, open View Details, and we'll go see what the deal is, why the Casillas house is worth a lot more than the Busquets house. So let me start over here. This is the Busquets house. And so it's, if I go to improvement building, it'll show me 2,700 square feet, built in 1942. Let's jump over here and do the same thing. Improvement building, 2,300 square feet. So this house is smaller and yet appraised higher. If you look over here, the smaller house is the Casillas, $795,000. So how come that house costs more? Well, if you go down in improvements, you can see they've added on a section of living room. They've added on another living area section. This house added a swimming pool 5 years ago. They've got a patio, an elaborate patio that they built in back. They added a separate porch with a cover on it. So this house has had a number of improvements since the 1970s. And that's why that house is appraised higher than one just up the road by a couple $100,000. So that's what you can do with discrete data.
So isn't that interesting? I don't know if you've ever done that before, but I've always found that to be fascinating. It's a great resource that I just love. I'm going to share with you. It's called, again, a great place for discrete data. It's citydata.com. And I don't know if anybody's familiar with this, but is there any city any one of you would like to live in? And you can shoot for the moon. I think this is just US cities, but think about anywhere in the US you'd want to live and tell me the name of a city. So Sabrina put Boston in chat. Boston's an interesting place. I'm trying to think of a similar city. Oh, good one. Yeah, Abby says Philly. Philly and Boston, actually, similar enough. So what I'm going to do is compare Boston and Philadelphia. I've got them open in two different tabs. So let me show you all the stuff that's in citydata.com. And if you've never used this resource, it's pretty amazing. So let me go to Boston. I'll scroll down. It starts with pictures. It shows major industries, gives you a glimpse of weather. But look, it starts to get into some really serious data, which, by the way, is fabulous for storytelling. Now, the greater Massachusetts, New England area is more like 5 million people. It's funny that Boston says its population is smaller than Austin's, which is coming up on 1 million. And the reason is Boston's weird. And I lived there for a year. In Boston, you're in downtown Boston proper. You can go to the North End, you can go to Southie, you drive around a little bit, or you don't even drive around. You ride the T, which is their train system. But if you go 10 miles in any direction, you've left Boston. You've entered another city. So they have like Cambridge, Mattapan, Braintree, all these little towns, separate cities with their own city councils and their own taxing districts around Boston. It's very different from Houston, for example, which is 40 miles in any direction, and you're still in freaking Houston. Houston's enormous. Boston's not, it's tiny, and it's surrounded by all these other cities. So let me compare it to Philly. We'll look at population and gender. Philly's, 2.5 times the size. Population's 1.5 million. Let's see, 52% female. Boston is similar, right at 52% female. Median age, only 32. Suspect Philadelphia is older. 34, only a little older, so interesting. Household income, Philly, 39,000. I'll bet Boston's higher. Look, median income in Boston's almost twice as high. I'm just showing you a quick glance. What's it going to cost you to get a house? $500,000 in Boston, probably expensive. Look at that. Philly, condo or house, way cheaper, 1/4 the price. They even have their own index. City Data has its own index. I think it's way over here to the right. Let me see. Here we go, the City Data Index. So let me look at Boston City Data Index 275. I think higher is worse. So we'll look at Philly's crime index. I actually tell students if they've got job offers in multiple cities, go look at City Data and see if there's something in there that tells them where they want to move. Philadelphia's crime rate is substantially higher than Boston's crime rate. So anyway, just a really interesting tool. Again, discrete data. And in that document I showed you that's in files, I have links to some of these things that you can use to find discrete data, taxing districts where you can go look up houses by name or address. By the way, you don't need an address. I put in Alamo Heights Boulevard, but you don't need that. You can look up properties by name and find out stuff about people. There's a lot of interesting data available free from public entities, cities, counties, states, the government, federal government, that you can go access. And by the way, City Data uses all of those aggregate sources, US Census, local crime data, FBI Uniform Crime Statistics, puts all of it together into this really digestible city data format. So that's a neat resource. Again, some links to some of those that you can check for discrete data. I mostly want to talk about aggregate data. So